Hi, I'm Victor Lambs, and we're celebrating the death of Stargate tonight. That's right. It is Tuesday, June 2nd, as we are recording this, and Stargate is dead. We'll get into, but we're not gonna let it go out without a fine Irish-style wake here. We'll be celebrating the 10 seasons of Stargate SG-1. And we'll get into that in just a little bit. But first, I wanted to say, joining me today are Jeff Hecker. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, Victor.
And Lisa Jones. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Victor.
And as I mentioned, today we're talking about Stargate SG-1, the entire series. It's our planned retrospective show of the entire run, all 214 episodes of SG-1. But as we were going to record today, some very sad news, upsetting news, troubling news, disturbing news broke that, I'll just read this X post from Joseph Malazzi, posted on June 2nd here. And it says, Joseph Malazzi says, "Sadly, it's true. Amazon has elected not to move forward with the new Stargate series. There's not much I can add beyond confirming what's happened, but I will say this. Creator Martin Gero developed a new Stargate series over 2 years, ultimately crafting a show that offered a fresh jumping-on point for new viewers while deeply respecting existing canon. It was a series that avoided the pitfalls of several modern remakes and reboots by fully embracing the core of its predecessors: action, adventure, exploration, wonder, heart, humor, and found family. And based on that creative vision, the new Stargate series was greenlit in November of 2025. As of today, June 2nd, officially that original vision is no more. We'll never get the opportunity to introduce you to that world and those characters, or reintroduce you to and check in with some familiar faces from the past. My heart breaks, and I'll just say ours too, for the incredibly talented writers who worked tirelessly to bring this show to life. For Martin, who maintained an unwavering positive outlook throughout, despite the challenges, and who always strove to make a show that would honor the fans while welcoming in new audiences. And for the long-suffering Stargate fandom, who waited so long and came so close to getting a show they truly would have loved." And that is from Martin, or Joseph Malazzi, and it links to various Gate World articles, and I think it was in Variety, that Amazon has, almost, or I guess 7 months into production or pre-production, decided not to go forward with the Stargate reboot that was showrunnered by Martin Gero with, Brad Wright, Joseph Malazzi. It sounds like we would have seen previous cast members. The article, I think one of the Variety article said that they didn't think it would have, appeal to, people beyond the core audiences. And you can read between the lines there, given how Amazon has handled some of their other properties and shows. I think, so officially, the Stargate, new series is dead. And if you've been, you're probably hearing this about 2.5 weeks after we record it. So there's maybe new news, new speculation that's come out, but that's the information we have at this time. X is, I would say, Stargate fans are beyond livid at Amazon about this, as am I. But, we came so close after waiting so long, only to have the rug pulled out from underneath us. And so what do you think of this news, Jeff?
Yeah, it's a bummer. Especially because they ordered the series. It wasn't like they were doing a test pilot or we're developing this. Like, they actually ordered the series, and you had the writer's room, they were developing scripts, they were, starting probably to cast people or look for casting. And yeah, it's just really such a bummer that they, that it ended. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's very disappointing. Hopefully it's not the end. There'll be another redevelopment in a few years, but yeah, I mean, it just kind of goes to show in the current pop culture, or TV, production things, even if you get a series order, it's not a guarantee. So it's just, It's just a bummer because it kind of signals that anything can be canceled at any time. But especially this, that we like. I mean, we've had other franchises I love. They've continued and had new things come out, to greater or lesser success, but they've at least carried forward. Stargate's kind of the one that was that just hadn't had anything, and yeah, we were like, I remember just how happy I was hearing the news of the new show and like excited for that, and yeah, now it's all, it's reminding me of the shutting down shutting down the SGC at the end of season 1 or the other seasons where they were going to shut it down, and I'm just like, we need a ragtag team to pull together and save the day. And so maybe there's hope out there, but yeah, it's a real bummer right now.
Yeah. And what did you think of this news, Lisa? Sorry, I'm trying to maintain some podcast order here.
It was really disbelief when I saw it today. I guess when the new show was announced with all the stuff that came out in November, it was almost too good to be true, because for how many years we've been tweeting, what was that hashtag? We need Stargate, or we want more Stargate, or whatever. And the fact that we were getting a new show, and it was being, the showrunners were part of the franchise. They weren't new. They weren't going to change it. I mean, that'd always been my fears, that we were going to get a Stargate, but it was not going to look like Stargate. And here it was. I mean, Martin Garrow, Paul, Malazzi, all our people, right, back.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I guess there's a part of me that if Amazon was going to mess with it and make it something that we don't want, then I'd rather them yank it rather than bastardize our show. So I'm upset. I'm sad. But I would rather not have a new series than have it be completely like what they've done to some of these other shows that I don't want to watch. And we do have 214 episodes of Stargate SG-1 and 2 movies plus the original. And so we can just keep watching those over and over and over again.
As we have been. Yeah.
As we have been.
Yeah, I'm with you, Lisa. And I think reading between the lines, that's kind of where the creative, and writing staff was. I think we'll learn, probably even by the time you're hearing this, we'll learn a little bit more about, what was going on behind the scenes. And so future us will be older and wiser in that regard, I guess. But yeah, it's definitely a gut punch, and not surprising. I mean, surprising, certainly a shock, but I mean, we when it comes to streaming TV shows these days, we just can't have nice things, I guess. So
I'm just surprised they let it get this far and then yanked it. I mean, because they were hiring, and they've been announcing who all they've hired and gotten on board and stuff, and they were supposed to start casting soon. So I don't know.
Yeah, production designers, which I hope at some point we see some of their, production design. They'd hired a composer. I don't know that it will ever see the story treatment or the world that was created. I imagine that'll leak out at some point.
I hope so.
Yeah, me too. And maybe we'll cover that on a future episode.
We should. Oh, do you think we could get Joseph Malazzi back on whenever he's available to chat about what happened? And he'll.
I don't know that he can actually. You sign so many.
That's true.
You sign so many papers when you agree to do that I don't know that he could ever.
Or at least
actually talk about
what the plot was.
Yeah, I think if we're still doing this 20 years from now, I think. I think
maybe our kids will be doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll keep going through this. We'll keep going looping through the show, and
exactly.
Just keep going. We're stuck in a time loop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm really curious what the gate cruise is going to be, because that would have been like a great, that would have been a great way to hype it up. And now it's like, if
Black
people go, are they going to?
Yeah.
Is it? What's that going to be like now?
Like I said, it'll be a wake, maybe.
Yeah, it'll be
everybody
a massive
getting real drunk.
party.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I should go. Maybe we should go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there might be some cancellations. I don't know. We can jump on.
Yep. So that's that. Again, that's all we know at this time. So rather than speculate, we'll move on and celebrate the best of Stargate, which is we've come not to bury Stargate but to praise it, or if I have that the right way around. So we're here to do a retrospective of Stargate SG-1, and I have to apologize in advance because I was going to prepare for this a little bit better before the podcast and then the news broke.
Distracted us.
Yeah, a little bit.
This will be our therapy session. We can make our.
So we've mentioned, speaking of therapy, like we each came to Stargate kind of at different stages, I think. I'll just start with myself. I didn't start with season 1 when it was on Showtime, but when it moved to Sci-Fi, I think at the start of season 6 or so is really when I started watching it. And that was the Jonas Quinn season. And we love season 6 so much. I was like, I got to watch all this. So we got the first 5 seasons on DVD and watched those. I think, just binged watched them. My wife and I, and then as the kids grew up, they were always watching Stargate as well. So I guess we'll just start there. Jeff, what was your SG-1 history?
Yeah, so I think when I did my first episode, like it's been a couple years now. So I remember I actually saw the Stargate movie in theaters. I remember going with my dad. I think he was the one who instigated bringing in. I mean, I was at 94, so I was 8, I guess, or so, somewhere around there, and so probably too young to be watching that movie. I wasn't like safeguarded from scary movies, but like I did see some. But yeah, that one was probably a little. I just remember Ra's eyes like really freaking me out. But I did like the movie, and then. I don't know when I started watching SG-1. I think I started catching sci-fi reruns. I remember we would have, I think we had Boy Scouts Monday nights, and that's when sci-fi would do their like 3 or 4 episodes in a row. And I was always annoyed because if we got home early enough, I could catch an episode or 2, but a lot of time we didn't. So, but then I was able to eventually, as the years went on, like catch it more and more. And I think I saw season 7 live. So that was the first season I kind of was able to catch up on live. I think I'd seen bits and pieces of it throughout the years. Probably I'd seen most episodes here and there. And I think I probably saw the tail end of season 6, but I remember getting to watch season 7 kind of week by week. And then I did the same with season 8. And then I started college, and that was a big part of my first years of college, was watching Sci-Fi Fridays with a few friends that I had around. I guess it was really just 2 years before SG-1 was over. So yeah, I don't know when I started SG-1, but I definitely I go back all the way to the movie, and just, it's a show that I've continued to revisit. I don't know how many times now. And I was planning, now that we finished SG-1, to go back and rewatch it from the beginning, and kind of doing a slow enough rewatch so by the time the new season or the new series comes out, I would have watched it all. But now I guess I can watch it at any pace I want to, and since I don't have anything to try to catch up to. But yeah, no, I've saw the movie, and I've been a pretty big fan of it ever since.
How about you, Lisa?
Stargate the movie was the first DVD my husband and I bought. It came with the DVD player. We got a free DVD, and his best friend had told us about it, and so we watched it. And then we were newlyweds, and I can't remember who told us about the show, the series, but we picked it up at season 2, and we got HBO or Showtime just to watch it. That was the whole reason we got Showtime, so that we could watch it. And so then we had to go back and watch season 1. And I can't remember if we found it on DVD then or how we did it. But then as our kids were being born during this time because we were, like I said, newlyweds. And so our kids just kind of grew up watching it. It was our go-to on road trips and everything else. Our kids have, they're all adults now. They have season 4, like all the episodes of season 4, they have memorized. They have pointed out to me, however, that there are certain episodes they've never seen. As I've been doing this rewatch the last 5 years, that I don't know why. Like One False Step, evidently they've never seen that. So why not, right?
Or they blocked it out.
Yeah, Fire and Water, they've never seen. There's just certain ones. So I think that's going to be my next, while they're home for the summer or pseudo moved home, whatever, is going on with my young adults. While they're here, I think maybe we'll do a catch up on that. But my husband and I, huge fans. Like I said, the family, we all watch it. The kids watch it. The kids have never seen Universe, or Atlantis. So just SG1. So I might need to remedy that. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of the movie, I did, it came out while I was in college, and the town I went to college in didn't have a movie theater. So we actually all had to drive and get a ride. Or maybe it was over the summer. I saw it, but, yeah, I remember watching it. I remember I was really into the band Earth, Wind and Fire, and some reviewer described it as like a Earth, Wind and Fire album cover come to life or something. And so I was like, oh yeah, I definitely have to see this, and I like sci-fi. So, yeah, and so I don't know why. I mean, I was finishing up college and then didn't have cable for a while, so Showtime wasn't an option until. But when I hit sci-fi, I was there for sure. Great, yeah. So as Joseph Malazzi said in his post, one of the core themes of Stargate is the theme of found family, or what we talk about on the podcast a lot here is the teamwork. They are a very close knit team. One of the things I found appealing about the show, which Amazon might not have, is the fact that the team doesn't hate each other.
None of angst.
Not enough angst. So we talk about the team. How do you think the team developed over the 10 seasons? Obviously, there were some notable departures and additions. Did any of the characters really have major growth arcs over the 10 seasons? Or just how do you think the team developed and matured, from season 1, through season 8 and then seasons 9 and 10?
Yeah, well, I think one of the biggest was O'Neill, of course, because he started off as like he didn't want to be the man, and like he says that in the episode, he gets promoted to general and promoted to commander of SGC. Is like, my whole life I've been fighting the man. Now I am the man, and so I think they all had great growth. But I think O'Neill going from where he was in the movie, if we're kind of counting the movie with the show, like where he was in the movie, how he kind of came back from the brink and started up the team after the death of his son and all that, and became such a great leader, and such a such a funny, his humor was just always great, and that's huge credit to Richard Dean Anderson there for that, and just his growth from that to being the general and commander. And even when he was the commander, he wasn't wearing the dress uniform all the time. He still was wearing his, I think you call them BDUs, or his his just jacket and trousers, and still was getting in on the action. And so, and I did, speaking of Richard Dean Anderson, I did see something I think it was yesterday, because he was in France at a con, I think at a Stargate con, and he said something about how he hadn't been asked to be in the series. So I don't know if that was like a hint that things were going south. But
I saw that news.
But I think for me, like, O'Neill's kind of the one I've gravitate to the most, as far as like characters that I enjoy watching their kind of growth and character arcs over the series.
What about you, Lisa?
I think that the show started out trying to build a team and have them develop relationships between all 4 members, and they all the 3 kind of all their relationship really focused on O'Neill. So it was a team, but he was the linchpin to the team. And so it felt like all of the relationships started off kind of like he was the center and they were the spokes off of it. And then for me, the growth really happened that the individuals all created a relationship with each other. I would say they all grew, of course, more confident, some of them got a little more loose. Obviously, Teal'c started off very gold and serious. And then, he just, got a little bit better as the series went on. But I liked that they didn't change too much. I think that's what I like. There's so many shows you watch that, from season 2, and if they have a season 7, the characters go through all these like changes and ups and downs and moody and this and that. And they just aren't the people that you fell in love with in season 1 and 2. And I think that Stargate really kept true to their characters. And maybe some people don't like that. I don't know. I have 2 exceptions. One major exception, and that's Daniel, because obviously he left for a season.
He died.
He died. Yeah. Jonas Quinn, I thought they brought him in really well to balance that team out. Daniel's my only character I felt like that wasn't as consistent, because I felt like we've talked about his ethics and moral. I think Jack and our Jack in the very first, when we started doing this, was talking about he's like the moral center of the team. We're like, sometimes not, depends on the issue. So I felt like he sometimes changed for plot. Sometimes he was super aggressive. Sometimes he was more like diplomatic. Anyway, so that he was my only one that, obviously I've said that many times, that really bothered me. I just feel like 8 and 9 is kind of a different show. So
yeah,
I thought they did the best with what they had, because I know it wasn't their choice to do it the way it was done. The showrunners, I mean. But I thought bringing in Mitchell, and I will say Vala, really, they tried to capture what we loved about SG-1. And I thought they did a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think my favorite character throughout the show, certainly when I was watching it, was Jonas Quinn. Sorry, because I started with season 6. No, it was Daniel Jackson. And he does go... this earnest, like very hyper fixated on, the archaeology and the symbols and stuff. And, they do tone that aspect of him down quite a bit. Early on in the first few seasons, him and Jack just kind of like learning how to work with each other, I thought was really nice. But then at other times, like in Arc of Truth or in, Enemy Mine, which is a season 7 episode I recently rewatched, where he's very fixated on the artifacts and learning the Unas language. So I really appreciated watching him. But yeah, we could talk about our favorite supporting cast members as well. We have Hammond and Braytek and Ball and Thor, and of course my favorite, Harry Mayborn, is my favorite. Speaking of found family, one thing I do love about Stargate is that they always treat their characters fairly. As much as I love Firefly, Joss Whedon was never one to treat his characters fairly. They could be killed off in an instant for no good reason. Well, I guess when we get to Atlantis, we've talked about that as well. But Stargate SG-1 certainly, even people who seem irredeemable at first, like Mayborn, can become allies, and I really appreciate that in all of Mayborn's episodes. Lisa, who's one of your favorite supporting cast members?
I made a huge list.
You can just read it down. I probably and then talk about them too.
Well, I'm not going to read them all because it was so hard. I started thinking about who were all these characters. I will say the one that I loved, Jonas coming in season 6 for what needed to be done. I mean, the way that happened. And of course, Hammond and Braytek and even Apophis for how he just kept showing up for us. But I have to say the one that I have to give credit to would be Vala, because I was very outspoken on here, how much I hated her. And I think they did really, like you said, they did good things by her character. They really gave her an arc. They gave her growth and depth that if you watch, which I forgot what it's season 8, I think that she first shows up. When you watch that episode, she's very one note. But by giving her 9 and 10, they really did a good job. So I'm eating my words on all the things that I said about Vala earlier on.
Yeah.
And I think that they did a good job with her. But there's so many that they were amazing.
What about you, Jeff?
Yeah. It's hard to narrow it down because the list of supporting characters was always is great. And that's what that's just what was great about this era of sci-fi. You could have 20 episodes of multiple seasons, so you can build these characters over years and years. So I think one of my favorites, just going off the top of my head, I've always really liked Master Braytak, and I know we recently, as we were finishing SG1, we got to his final episode where he and Teal'c kind of have their kind of, you've been the father, or like you've been the son that I never had. And I just really, I've always been fascinated by like the warrior nature of the Jaffa and like their kind of warrior culture, and Braytak being kind of one of the first Jaffa to, really speak out, like not in the show, but like speak out in chronologically against the Goa'uld, because he's the one who kind of taught Teal'c about that, and that led to Teal'c ultimately turning on Apophis. So I just love his arc, and I would have loved to get more backstory for him in an episode or something. So but I also like that he's kind of the mysterious mentor. Like I know that's a trope, but like you don't want to reveal too much because then it kind of makes them less cool. But yeah, no, I love Braytak, and then I don't know if we're talking about enemies later, but of course, if we don't have that as a separate thing, of course, Ball is just, so entertaining. He's just like even though he's doing bad stuff, you're like, you want to know what he's doing, and he's entertaining to watch. So, I'd say those two, but again, like you said, Jonas and Mayborn and all these other characters, I really it's fun. They're just a lot of fun.
Even Kinsey.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. 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 So another thing that Joseph Mlodzi highlighted in his post was the sense of adventure and wonder in this show. And so we can talk a little bit about the world building, and we'll talk a little bit about kind of the big bads of the show here a little bit. So we start off kind of picking up from the movie, although we do kind of expand and they flesh out the Goa'uld quite a bit more in the show, actually calling them the Goa'uld. And we progress from there to, through season 4 and 5 into replicators, and then, kind of another Goa'uld for a little bit. There's this whole thing with ascended beings, and then finally we get to the Ori. So there's kind of a progression or escalation as the show goes along. Do you think the move away from the Goa'uld to the replicators and Ori helped or hurt the show ultimately? And I'll start with you, Jeff.
Yeah, I think so. The Goa'uld were an entertaining enemy to fight, and you really felt a great sense of accomplishment when you defeat them. I think if they had just brought another Goa'uld on after the defeat of Anubis, and that might have been just more one note. They would have. I feel like they would have had to do. And ultimately, Ball is the final boss, because we see him back in Continuum. So and I think we talked about that. That would have been some of the arc of season 10 would have been like the SG1 chasing down the Ball clones and getting rid of them. So that, I think you had to have a break between the Goa'uld and something else, and the Replicators as kind of an enemy for season 8 was pretty. I think that worked. Replicator was interesting, and her kind of takeover was kind of cool. And we've hashed out the Ori like there's only, and I think it just comes down to the ascended beings overall just are not as interesting as characters, whether they're good or bad, just because you have to have like a Deus Ex Machina to beat them. Like it's not like the Gould or the Replicators where they can kind of overcome it, with their own technology, or even with like, working with the Asgard or something. They really had to get assistance from the Ascended to fight them, and it kind of made it less. It felt less accomplishing to defeat the Ori. So I don't know. I think I'm glad we got the other two seasons. I'm glad it didn't just end, because even though the enemy wasn't as interesting and some of the episodes weren't as good, I still like seeing the team, even if it's a different team. I like seeing them together and doing things and even hanging out. Like that's one thing I really enjoy about shows, is when you get the team not at work. And I mean, most of the episodes they are, but they're like the moments where they're just kind of hanging out together are a lot of fun. But yeah, I think you had to do something different than Gould, but the Ori were maybe not it. And if they had done something different, then maybe there could have been a season 11, but I don't know.
Yeah, the team got really good at killing Gould and killing Jaffa, so I don't think that would have been sustainable in the long run. I realized, but it was fun while it lasted, and I realized I didn't mention the Lucian Alliance or the Trust as enemies either.
Wow.
Because
that was my favorite.
Yeah, I don't think we need to mention them, but yeah, I think they did a good job keeping things lively, and given just how quickly they had on the spot, like, as we talked before when we started season 9, they had about 3 months from learning that they were, or maybe even less, learning that they were being picked up for season 9. And then when they started to film, to come up with, season 9. And so it was, on the spot like that. I think it was, understandable that they came up with the Ori. What about you, Lisa? How do you feel about kind of the progression of the show over 10 seasons in terms of, the enemies, and even more broadly, what kind of stories they were telling?
I really enjoyed the Gould episodes. I mean, that's how we started. I thought they did a really good job of developing their world and the differences and and them and the way they ruled. And then you've got the Jaffa being part of, their soldiers, but then trying to free them. And I thought it was really well done. But at the same time, I liked the introduction of the replicators. I thought that gave us a little something extra. And it partially was fun because we had been introduced to the Asgard, and the Asgard couldn't beat the Asgard could like wipe the Gould out in a minute. So to suddenly be introduced to something that the SG-1 really had to figure out how to do on their own, and the Asgard couldn't help them, the Gould couldn't help them, or whoever, or the Nox, or whoever, you wanted to save the day. And so I liked it. It was different. It was, I will say, I did like before it was called the Trust. I forget what it was called.
NID or something.
The NID, yeah. I kind of liked some of those episodes as kind of an earthbound enemy, because I was a political science major. Like, I like all of that intrigue and espionage and governmental stuff. So I liked some of those episodes. We didn't need to become one of those shows, but it added a little like something else. So I liked it. I thought they were horrible. I mean, we don't need to rehash the last year of podcast here. No, I thought they were horrible. I know they only had a few months. I know they did the best they could. It's just like you said, the whole Ascended thing. It just seemed too powerful. The fact that they burned Vala alive in the first time we saw them. How are you supposed to fight that? So I just felt like they set themselves up against a bad, an evil creation that they couldn't really fight. So then they didn't know what to do, and that's how we got the Lucian Alliance and Crazy Space Corn, was because they needed, you can't just fight the Ori every episode. You need something else. And all the weird leather chaps they wore. It was weird. Yeah.
We'll save further discussion of that for our favorite and least favorite episode portion, which I think we'll move to now. So we have, what's our, and I know that we could each list probably 25 episodes as our favorite. So we'll try to keep it to one or two. And then we'll also pick an underrated gem, ones that don't usually come up in the best of lists. And then a skip it episode, which you could probably skip. There are no bad Stargate episodes, of course, except for the ones. But anyway, so we'll and I guess I'll start with this here. In terms of my ultimate episode, there's, like I said, there's so many I could list. But the one that I really like is season 2, episode 15, I think, Matter of Time.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think it's if you're watching the show, I think that's where the sci-fi really clicks with the whole, Stargate team and who O'Neill is. It's also my son's favorite episode. It's one of the first that when he was watching the show, he really said, I really like this episode, So I always pick it for that. That's the one where, is it SG-11? I didn't look it up, but we'll assume it is because SG-11 is always getting wiped out somehow. Maybe it's 2 or 3, but is it caught in the event horizon of a black hole, which is causing time dilation effects on Earth. And O'Neill has to almost basically sacrifice himself to detonate a nuke into the Stargate to sever the connection and stuff there. We learn a lot about how the Stargate works in this episode, which is really cool. Time dilation hadn't been kind of done a lot at that point. So it was really cool to see how time was progressing. The further, the further you got away from the gate, time was progressing more quickly and stuff. So I thought that was really cool as well. So, it's a really good episode. Probably not one that makes the top list, but it's one that, for personal reasons, I would put that as probably my favorite. What about you, Lisa? We'll go back to Lisa.
Okay. I have a list, but I will be very quick, I promise.
Okay.
So I think if you had to ask me what episode, if it was on TV, would I automatically sit down and watch? Because, I think Comet Channel does 3 a day. And my family, like if we were watching, what's the DVD that got worn out basically? And that would be Window of Opportunity, which I think rates high on everyone's list. So I didn't want to say that one, but that is that one. I would also say The Fifth Race, because it has lots of phrases that my family uses, like bend your Kozars. We say those kinds of things in our house. Lost City, because again, it's kind of closing out on the just Jack, and you get a lot of team involvement, and they are, figuring out what's coming. And again, it's kind of a back to Fifth Race. Ergo, because it's fun, and I love Dom DeLuise. And then Upgrades. Upgrades is another one that I will watch every day of the week because, again, great team dynamic with them being goofy and eating and then getting a Diet Coke. And I asked my daughters, and they said need. Which they love Daniel Jackson. So that for them is like their ultimate Daniel Jackson sarcophagus. And I don't know. They just thought they really like that. And then my other one I would say is Foothold. I really like Foothold. So.
Okay.
Oh, do you want my underrated twos?
No. We'll get to those next. What about you, Jeff?
Yeah, it's tough to kind of narrow it down. And I know we did like a favorite episodes thing a while back, but so at least as you said Lost City, and I'll throw that one in there as well. I think that's, if I'm going with like season kind of quasi series finale before things change, that's kind of at the top of my list, just because it's kind of the final time the original team's all together. They're solving mysteries, but there's good action, there's good space combat. Like I think it has all the hallmarks of great Stargate. And I mean, Mobius is such a great finale, but I feel like it's kind of cheating to say that because I think we'd all kind of rate it that high. And, Window of Opportunity, of course, that one's up there. Just thinking of kind of the smaller, not smaller in like what they are, but just like the not as, plot heavy episodes. One that always kind of comes back to me is, I can't think of the name of it, but it's the episode where we first see the Asgard mothership. It's where they're I can't think of the
Thor's
name of it.
Chariot.
Thor's Chariot. Yeah,
Thor's
yeah,
Chariot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's one that I would like. Because I was a big fan of mythology and especially Norse mythology. So like getting the Asgard to kind of be corresponding to the Norse was just really cool for me. And they're kind of they're in a kind of a Viking society or Norse society, and they're helping solve an ancient riddle to kind of bring the Norse down, or like, to that ultimately we find out that the Asgard are the Roswell Greys. And you get to see their ship come down. And I thought that was really cool. So that's one that's always kind of up there for me. Prometheus is another one that I really like, getting, because I'm big on the ships. So the first episodes with the Prometheus was really cool, and getting to see where that goes. And then also, I don't remember the names of the episodes, but I think it's it might be the season 7 premiere, where we really get to see the F-302s kind of in action for the first time. Or maybe I'm thinking of the end of toward the end of season 7, or season 6 rather, where they're doing like the Death Star trench run kind of thing on Anubis's big ship as he's coming down. So I really like that. Yeah, there's just so many kind of small hidden gems. But yeah, if we're kind of going for the smaller ones, I'll go with Thor's Chariot. But yeah, so many.
Yeah. Late breaking news. I just Joseph Malazzi just posted.
Did they announce a movie?
No.
Wormhole Extreme.
I just wanted to share. So Variety, we'd posted say that sources say Amazon executives were concerned that the series would not have broad appeal. Malazzi just said, "Nope, no, sorry, you're going to have to push back on this. We were ever mindful of creating a show that would have broad appeal." So again,
Ooh.
back to that was not the reason. So which kind of, well, we'll go on to our kind of underrated gem episodes here. So these are episodes that typically don't make the top favorite list. There are so many here too. Just for me, early in season 7, Fallout, the return of Jonas Quinn and the giant drilling machine.
Oh no!
I just really like the idea of this giant drilling machine, and then his girlfriend is a Goa'uld and stuff, and sacrifices herself. I just really like that episode. And then the other one, I think this is also season 7. Season 7 had some really good kind of underrated gems. Revisions, which is kind of just like this chilling sci-fi story. It's the one where they go to the planet and the atmosphere is toxic except for the little bubble inside of Dutch Fantasy Village, which is ever shrinking. And then as the thing shrinks, the computer who is programming all the people will have them just walk out of the bubble and kill themselves. So it's kind of dark for a Stargate episode, which is also kind of, I think, why I like it. I remember watching that. I was like, wow, this is deep. So those are kind of 2 underrated gems that I like. What about you, Lisa?
I don't know if mine are actually underrated, but I didn't see them on any like must-watch list. So I would start with 2010. I actually love both the Ashen episodes, so 2010 and 2001, I think is what it's called. The Curse, which I know it's a Daniel heavy episode, but I actually really liked it. Beneath the Surface is always been one of my favorites, again, season 4. But one of the things I really like about it, besides their memories are wiped and they still ship each other, but I like it because their memories are wiped and they still know that they're all 4 team members and supposed to be working together. So just my little relationship harp loves that. Mobius, which I actually said right that time, because it should have been the finale of the whole series, because it was so well done. Just absolutely so well done. Ending, wrapping all the stories up. They're fishing at the end at the cabin. And then strangely, Jeff, I put Thor's Chariot on this list.
Oh.
That I really like it because it was the kind of the first time we had known, where they're talking to Thor, what they think is a hologram of Thor, but it really is Thor representing as a Viking. And then we see the ship and they wipe out it's just, I thought it was a very powerful episode, very well done. And it's pretty early on. So it just really spoke to what they would accomplish later on in their writing in the series.
What about you, Jeff? Any hidden gems in there?
Yeah, there's some of what y'all have already mentioned, but one I really like too from just to shout out the later seasons is Ripple Effect, which is the one where you have the alternate realities, kind of multiple SG teams are coming through the gate because of, I forget what the thing was, but
bridge.
Yeah, there was a a bridge or whatever that brought all these alternate reality teams and you get to see, like, we get to see Janet Fraser back, we get to see multiple Carters. I thought that was it. I like that episode a lot. I should have written down the titles, but I also really like the one where it's they override the gate protocol and go through a gate, and it brings a super heavy element into a sun, and it's another Asgard one
or whatever.
Red Sky.
Red Sky.
I really like that one too, and maybe it's just because I like the Asgard, but I thought that was a cool episode of because you get to see cool, like, they're building a rocket ship on another planet, and they're dealing with and it brought up some interesting religious questions of, like, we can get you all out of here to leave your planet, to leave your home, but the people wanted to stay and and pray and whatnot. I thought that one was really good. Trying to think of if there's any other. I mean, there's so many. I like the one where I don't know the name. I can't remember the name, but it's the one where Daniel goes to it's the first kind of alternate reality where he goes through the quantum mirror. And has
there before the grace of God.
Yes, that one I think is really good. I mean, I wouldn't call that one underrated, but that kind of sets up the first season finale. So yeah, there's just so many, though. We could go on and on, but those are some of the ones that I always kind of come to mind.
Awesome. And now we'll get to the skip it episodes. I mean, there's not too many that I would skip. I mean, there's ones, so there's a lot in like 9 and 10 that really don't advance the plot, and you could probably skip those. I mean, 4 Horsemen, I think, where just everybody gets sick. Maybe the one with the bugs in the SGC. Probably, I don't know, like one Bounty, even. It's not a bad episode. It's just I just don't know why they made it. But yeah, so those would be some that maybe I would skip if I had to watch the show again in another 20 years. What about you, Jeff?
Yeah, I will say I find enjoyment in most Stargate episodes, SG1 episodes, I should say. Universes, we'll see. But with us, even in counting Atlantis too, like I think there's something to like in almost every episode. And even I don't know that I'll go back and really watch like One False Step or I think it was the second SG1 where they go to the Mongolian planet. What was it?
Emancipation.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'll rewatch those, so I would probably skip those. But at least One False Step is like it's so bad that you can laugh at it. Yeah, there's some in season 9 and 10 as well, like we said, that are kind of skippable, don't add a whole lot. But like I think Lucian Alliance specific episodes I think are up there. Bounty at least was entertaining because it was Mitchell's hometown.
Yeah, maybe I was thinking of the Space Corn episode before Bounty, or what? Yeah.
Well, I think at the start of Bounty is when they blow up the corn ship. But there's other Lucian Alliance episodes. But I don't have that many. Like, and I'm planning. I said earlier I was going to rewatch it kind of as a lead up to the new series, but I'm still going to probably start it over and go back through. So there's not many I'll probably skip, though. There's at least like something to like about most episodes.
Excellent. What about you, Lisa?
Okay, I'm pretty consistent. I skip pretty much, if it's just me, any episodes that are about like free Jaffa.
Okay, yeah, those are pretty.
Or Unas. Sorry.
You don't like the Unas episodes?
I know. You mentioned Enemy Mine, and I'm like, nope, I don't like that episode. The one exception, though, is Thor's Hammer. That one, because we only see it. It's James Earl Jones as Unas. So, but yeah, pretty much freeing the Jaffa thing or Unas. And then I just wrote down like most of 9 and 10. So.
Okay. Well, there you go. I think we have time for just some rapid fire questions here. Favorite alien race or planet? I would say the One False Step plant people.
Aww.
No, because they're so pathetic. I like the Asgard. I love the puppets, and I love, how they brought them to life and gave them all like sarcastic, personalities later on. So that would be mine. Lisa, what would be your favorite alien race?
Mine's Asgard, for sure. Okay. I wrote the same thing, that they all had different personalities, and there were so many of them, and that they had problems, and that their problems allowed the humans to shine. So I liked that.
And what about you, Jeff?
I mean, it's hard to not say the Asgard too. But another one that I like that I wish we'd gotten a little bit more of was I forget what they were the ones in the space race episode and the Hebrides, whatever those.
I think that's
guys
what it was,
were. Yeah. Victor, I think you're muted. If you were talking just now.
Yeah, no, it was the Arakans and the Hebrides. Yeah.
Okay.
The Arakans. Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought they were kind of cool, and they would have been fun to get more on. Favorite planet? I don't know. I'd have to. That's a tougher one because I don't remember. I remember the stories, but I don't remember the planets necessarily.
Yeah.
For Victor, it was the one with the touchstone.
Oh, I hate the Madronans. Put them in a box and put it in the ocean. I don't like them.
You didn't say that one on your skip episode.
Yeah, you did you?
No, because I think I liked the rogue crew who was like stealing there. Yeah, I liked the people who were stealing the stuff. Just
one of Mayborn's first episodes.
It's a Mayborn episode.
Yeah. I didn't like that. But best.
Go
ahead.
I would say another one. I really liked the Ashen, not for who they were, but their plot line was very well done.
Yeah. Best running joke. I think for me, it's when O'Neill pretends to not understand something and comes up with like some explanation, like, where he goes like magnets or something, or, or says a word wrong, even though he's smarter than that and knows like what's going on and stuff. Just when O'Neill is playing dumb, I think it's really charming.
I agree.
What about you, Lisa?
I didn't really have anything. I was just going to say the way they ran reference to The Wizard of Oz, The Simpsons, Mary Steenburgen. Like there were all these just, we would talk about it, like all these little threads that they just kind of pulled through episodes where you're like, I don't think you even notice it the first time around. And then as you watch it over and over again, you're like, wait a minute. Why did they say that? So.
Yeah, there's a few I like. I like Braytak and Teal'c's kind of sayings of, when Jack says, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So no, the bridge is too well guarded, or
yeah,
there's lots of sayings and jokes over the years with that. I didn't notice it when until I was doing the podcast on it, but Mitchell getting clotheslined in season 9 and 10 all the time, like constantly getting clotheslined by people was, I mean, that's a good one too. And I think just another good one is just the references to Teal'c's like stoicism, like people joking like, oh, you never shut up, or they put him in a room to intimidate somebody and he doesn't have to say anything. And he just kind of like leans in threateningly. So a lot of Teal'c stuff actually is what I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and another one of mine is Sergeant Siler always getting injured or being appearing in sick bay injured, where you don't know what happened. Obviously Dan Shea, the stunt coordinator for SG1. So Yeah, having him always being
Mhm.
injured, electrocuted, flying across the room, that sort of thing is another good running joke for
Mhm.
the series. So I guess one more question. We'll do most emotional moment, and we'll go back to Lisa for this one.
I think the most emotional episode would be Heroes
Yeah.
because of the way they did it. You didn't know who had been killed, and just the way that they intertwined it with the story of the young soldier who'd been injured and the filmmaker there. And it was just a very passionately well done episode. So that was the emotional episode for me. I would say most emotional moment, being the shipper that I am, would be Divide and Conquer when they thought Jack and Sam were Zaytarks. That was pretty emotional,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Or to be in upgrades when they're like across the shield from each other,
Oh,
because
yeah.
that's where like
That's where the
happens.
scenes in Divide and Conquer came from, was upgrades.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What about you, Jeff?
Yeah, it's hard to argue with Dr. Frazier's death because that was pretty big. I guess just another one that to not choose that one is, I guess, is the death of Jacob Carter. Like that's
Oh,
a
yeah.
pretty
That
big
was
that's a
very
pretty
good.
big one too,
Mhm.
because he had been such a he was kind of the Tok'ra that comes back all the time, like that they keep in contact with, and him finally, because when we first meet him, he's got terminal cancer and like doesn't think he's going to survive, and he gets to have that extra life and that extra time doing these, like getting to do some of what his daughter does, and kind of finally learning what she does, and that it's not just deep space radar telemetry. But I think he was one of the most, I think, impactful deaths in the show, because we didn't, like, I would say General Hammond, but we didn't really lose him on screen. I
Mhm.
think I can't remember if he dies like in the show in SG1 or if he's still kind of out there, but yeah, losing Jacob, I think was a big one.
Yeah, I definitely agree on Heroes. I think the moment in that was emotional for me was Saul Rubinex as Brightman giving his speech about
Mhm.
how important it is that he's being allowed to film what's going on, and the importance for people to learn the truth. I like that moment, that speech from him quite a bit. And then of course, when we say goodbye to Jonas Quinn, that was very emotional for me as well. So, all right. We'll just say any final thoughts. I guess the final thought we want to leave people with is: would you, obviously, we know the answer to this because we've been doing this podcast for over 5 years. Would you recommend a 214 episode commitment to a new viewer today? For me, that's an emphatic yes.
It'd be pretty sad if we were like, nah.
No. I wasted 5 years of my. No, it's an emphatic yes. If you're listening to this and you haven't seen the show yet,
What are you doing? Why aren't you
yeah, what are
watching
you
it?
doing? Yeah, I so highly recommend it. Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I would recommend it. I mean, like we said, there's a few episodes here that are kind of stinkers, and some of the early, I mean, even in the when it's in the best seasons, there's episodes that are not as good, but you have 22 episodes a season to, you're going to have some that don't hit as hard. So I think it's a great show. If you've never seen it and you're listening to this for the first time and on the fence about watching it, I mean, you can binge it and just like, it's one that like I can have on the background and I can kind of know what's going on, but then I can also sit and like really watch it and pay close attention to it, just because I really love it. So yeah, of course it's a recommend.
And you, Lisa?
I think for sure. I think that if you like sci-fi at all, I think that this was a very well done show with humor. Didn't take itself too seriously. There was good science. We had good, solid, flawed characters that focused on team relationship dynamic, and I think it's you have to, when you go back and watch the first couple of seasons, we're talking late 90s, it was very different. Shows were filmed very differently, not only in how they look, but the pacing, the jokes, I think some people think it's a little cheesy, going backwards and looking at some of those early episodes. And they were. But I think that Stargate really hit a stride at the end of season 2, really into season 3. And then it just ran. And I think that it just kind of picked up and ran all the way through season 7 and then season 8. And so you got a lot of good quality episodes, and it's worth your time. When you make 22 episodes a year, of course you're going to have some fillers, and some of them are funny, some of them are fun, some of them are meh, like Unis, but you watch it anyway.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, great. I thank you. I feel a little better now.
Are you coming back next week?
Yeah, I'm going to still probably do some Stargate doom scrolling on my phone after this, but I do feel a little bit better. And hopefully our patrons do as well. We'd like to take a moment to thank them, our patrons who make it possible for us to create The Secrets of Stargate, including Daniel C., Donald M., Sandra M., Haley H., and Tess W. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue The Secrets of Stargate and all the shows on StarQuest, and you can join them by visiting givestarquest.com. And be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Just no Amazon products. Sorry. Or find our video version still. I'll be better tomorrow. Or find our video versions at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia. And to find previous episodes of Secrets of Stargate and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/Stargate. And you can email us at stargate@sqpn or follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia or on X at SQPN. And we'll be back next time with the next episode of Stargate Atlantis Reunion. Yay. Or maybe not yay. We'll let you know what we think next week. Until then, Jeff Hecker, thank you for joining us and sharing the secrets of Stargate.
Thanks, Victor.
And Lisa Jones, thank you as well.
Thanks, Victor.
And once again, I'm Victor Lambs. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Stargate on StarQuest. And remember, undomesticated equines could not keep me away. Or my alternate quote was, face monkey.
No! That's awesome.
All right.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?
You're listening to The Secrets of Stargate, episode 265, I guess. Sorry. Sorry.
It's a mood.
Yeah.